I'm going to be breaking down the warm weather for you because it's not all good news. And first and foremost, we'll have more cold air to go before it gets here, and then a really rapid warm up, which is not really a good scenario for us here. So notice this lobe of cold air coming in through the weekend. And as we go forward through the weekend, look how into next week, the freezing lines, that line's the 32-degree line, it goes off to our north and it stays up there. Normally we would see this bouncing up and down for daytime highs and nighttime lows, which means even during the overnight lows, we're not going to be refreezing. So therefore, we'll melt during the day, we'll melt during the night. That means the melt rate is going to be accelerated because we're not seeing that pause and refreeze like we would typically see. That's a lot of water from the snowpack dumped into our rivers. That's a lot of water from potential rain on top of all that being dumped into our rivers, and our rivers are starting to freeze. So there's the problem that we're going to be watching out for. Now, the good news is we won't do this back and forth. I mean, this is also kind of bad news as well. We have a greater than 70% chance of above average temperatures for 8 to 14 days out. That's the whole week after the 7-day forecast. That's going into early February through Groundhog's Day. So warm weather could be very common yet again, just like it has been almost this whole season up until about a week ago. We were finally getting some ice out there on the Great Lakes. Notice Saginaw Bay, Lake St. Clair, Lake Erie, a little bit over by Chicago. New ice, thin ice, not good for any sports recreation, ice fishing, and it will become even more dangerous over the coming days, especially into next week as we really start to melt it off and get that melt water in there. Black ice is also a possibility. It's a very thin layer of ice. It's so thin that it actually looks transparent. That's why it takes on the black look. It's not that white sheen of ice that you usually see. So it can be very hard to spot. And I'm pointing this out because we are going to start to melt it off with the sun in the daytime, and then the cold temperatures during overnight lows. They'll be too cold for salt to work yet again before the really warm air arrives. So that cold air also means that we will be adding more ice to our rivers. Then we start to bring in the rainfall potential into next week as well. We could see over half of an inch, maybe up to an inch of rainfall accumulation down to the southeast. So you're throwing all that into our water, into our rivers. The warm up begins, it all melts, the ice starts to push downstream. But the problem is the ice starts to clog. It starts to kind of turn into a big mass sometimes, and that's going to start to clog the areas of the river. Any narrow areas or any curves in the river are really susceptible to that. So when the ice starts clogging, snow keeps melting, rain keeps falling, that reduces the flow that the river can handle, obviously. It's like a dam, and then we start to flood everything, including potentially some of our neighborhoods. So there is a lot to watch out for. It's not just a, hey, it's happy, warm forecast. We could have even more problems coming our way, so make sure you stay tuned for more developments.